You can be seated. Madam Clerk? Here, I'm not used to sitting in the back of that head.
I'm not used to it either. This is our budget hearing on March 30th, 2016. Trustee Avina.
Present.
Trustee DeLucia.
Here.
Trustee Gately.
Here.
Trustee Van Rushlav is excused. And Mayor Junta.
Aye, thank you. So we worked extremely hard and diligently to present this preliminary budget to the Village of Manorhaven. And I just want to thank our village clerk, President Gross, our accountants, and our liaison to the board, Trustee Avina, for their hard work. So for this evening's presentation of the preliminary budget, changes were made as suggested at the last work session. I just want to go over a few things. We did not receive income for record registration this coming fiscal year. This eliminates $266,000, which we have at our disposal every other year, not this coming year. We expect to have approximately $261,000 in surplus from this current year. It is important to save this money for capital projects and to maintain good credit rating. We also expect a one-time $50,000 legal payout to occur in the beginning of fiscal 2016 and 17. If it happens sooner, before this May 31st, it will reduce our budget surplus this year. Unlike previous non-rental registration years, we have set aside $31,000 in contingency funds. This is an important buffer for any lines which we may have cut too severely. We have cut almost all expense lines. This is an extremely lean budget. We have listened to the demands for more code enforcement. This line of budget was raised. And as you know, our roads are in need of repair, and our new hot box will help our road crew accomplish that. But before we start, I do have a question to clarify with Mr. Avina. The other evening, you mentioned allocating $50,000 for a waterfront study. Our last study in 2014 cost the village $3,000, and that included all of Manorhaven and the waterfront. So I'm just curious, where did you come up with this amount, and what would it be spent for?
Well, first of all, Madam Mayor, in briefly discussing it that night,
Yeah, let me just pass the microphone. So.
I can speak about that. In briefly discussing it that night, Trustee DeLucia brought up a very good point that we should take some time and look at the existing reports that have been issued. The one in 2014 was a fairly comprehensive report on the entire village.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm withdrawing that suggestion.
I'm sorry.
I'm withdrawing that suggestion, and I feel that we should discuss it at the work session on April 11th. To come up with a plan. However, I will reiterate the fact that the board unanimously agreed to a moratorium, a 6-month moratorium on waterfront development, and that was agreed. So that was part of the study that we should prepare to look at all possible alternatives and have better input we possibly could have before we move forward. Obviously, the concern has been brought up a number of times, I think a little prematurely, but nevertheless has been brought up by concerned citizens about type and steel. Obviously, the waterfront piece of property with 10 acres. So this all has to be reviewed. So the first step that we did take at the last BOT meeting was to establish a moratorium. Mr. Toner has outlined the next steps to move it along. I will be asking at the work session that we have a public hearing on the moratorium to get the ball rolling, and that would be our next BOT meeting, which I believe is the 25th of April.
Okay.
Let's also clarify that the, as the statute stands, it's 6 months at a time. I know the MAC committee has suggested
a year.
a year, but it doesn't work that way. It's 6 months, and then you extend it for another 6
Can I
months.
comment? I did a lot of research on the moratorium. First, I just want to add to Trustee Avina's comments that the board hasn't agreed to the moratorium. They've agreed in principle that the moratorium is something good for the village. Obviously, we have to do a public hearing before the board agrees. you can have a one-year moratorium in certain limited instances, however, it's recommended, and in reading a lot of the case law, it's a good idea to start with 6 months. But there have been moratoriums that have been upheld for a year or even more. The idea, though, is that you have to be, it has to benefit the whole community, it has to affect the whole community, residents and commercial, and we have to be actively working towards, you know, a comprehensive plan. If you're going to impose a moratorium, you have to be actively working on a comprehensive plan from day one. You can't have a moratorium for 6 months and then begin 6 months later on a comprehensive plan. They have to begin together. Otherwise, the courts will strike it down. So it's got to be for a real purpose that affects the community. They're not uncommon. They're enclosed a lot in New York. My recommendation is 6 months. We could do a year, but I think the 6 months is perfect.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk? I know you're, I don't know if you have your voice back.
Not much, but I just wanted to say thank you to the entire board for their input over the past 2 work sessions and hearing, and coming together, really working together on crunching the numbers, understanding the reasoning behind the numbers that we've put in for next year, understanding that it is a very, very tight budget, and understanding the importance of keeping money in a surplus so that we keep our credit rating up, and that if we do need to borrow money for some type of a project, that our credit rating allows us to borrow and gives us that ability more favorably. So I really want to thank everybody for working together. We've stayed within the tax cap. You'll notice the top line on your budgets in past years has been $2,915,733. We do count on every penny of that being collected. You'll also notice that as of January 31st, 2016, for example, we had only collected $2,896,000. And as of, at end of the year in 2015, we didn't collect the entire amount we had hoped to. So you can see that, yes, we expect, we hope, and we budget for every bit of our tax dollars coming in, but it doesn't always happen either. So we've cut from almost every line. We've really tightened our belts, but we do want to do the things that governments are supposed to do: plow the snow, fill potholes, take care of our roads, take care of our waterfront. And so we've now presented this budget with the adjustments after listening to the public, increasing the line in trying to get a full-time building superintendent, increasing the line for code enforcement, trying to get at least another part-time code enforcer. There are very few other lines that have gone up other than records management. One of the things that is so important in government is to keep good records and to be able to find them. Not only find them, but to share them with the public, just to have them here when nobody can find them or get to them, access them. So this board very, I think wisely this year, instituted and purchased a piece of software called Laserfish. 3/4 of our building records are already out being scanned. The board just approved some more money to finish the building records that did not go out. We sent out 78 boxes. The initial allotment of money was able to scan 50 of those boxes. And now we're gonna scan the last 28 boxes that they have there. And then when we get those back, send out the rest of the building files. This is gonna be a multi-year project, again, because it does cost money. And so we're gonna scan in, hopefully over the next few years, the rest of the records we have here, whether it's, and that's from the clerk's side. So we'll be scanning in contracts, we'll be scanning in minutes, we'll be scanning in records that last a lifetime. And I want to thank the board for understanding that. So with that, Madam Mayor, if there are any questions that you would like to ask or any of the board members, this is our third meeting for the budget. And if not, if you want to ask the public if they have any questions, this has been available for anybody in the public to pick up.
Rita has a question.
Sure.
Just a mistake that we found, and if we
Okay.
just want to correct your record.
Page 4.
It doesn't really affect our budget for this year, it's just, it's on page 4, under shared services, 1620. That the budgeted amount for supplies and materials should carry over to 17,000 again. It just, so when the figures
That was our
add up-
adopted budget,
Right.
yes.
And then, so the total shared services would be 121,000.
Thank you for that.
Just because then your figures are not gonna add up if anybody goes
Right,
through and takes
right,
this
right.
paperwork, they're not gonna realize it.
So there's no questions from the board at this time?
It doesn't change anything this year, this is just from last year.
Yes.
Erased.
It was just what it was adopted last year, I just wanna make sure, because then the figures don't add up.
Correct, thank you.
Other than that, the only question I had was, yeah, the last page. I'm assuming that because of some of the, numbers from the adopted budget from last year, because the last budget papers I have from Monday's meeting, it showed, a surplus / deficit of 9,500, now we're at 17. Is that because all the figures are
That's
adjusted?
because those numbers on page 4 should have not been eliminated, it was supposed to be in the proposed budget. So
Okay.
we didn't touch anything from 2015-16. Those numbers are just there, and if you look at our adopted budget is on our internet, so I would just kind of erase what the adopted budget was, because it doesn't have that.
Well, my question is really, is the 17,000 is a surplus from
No,
last?
last year was 60.
Should be 0.
Zero, no surplus.
Okay.
I'm just, the reason why I'm asking is because I'm thinking that if we had a surplus, was it then carried over till this year? My chair keeps moving. There we go. Okay, I'm
Right,
happy.
when we put the 17 back in, it went to
It
0.
eliminates the surplus, so it goes to 0.
That was the 17 we put into line 16, 20, 410. So when you put the 17 up there, it takes it out from there. The other thing that I changed after the work session, on page 4, line 1990-400, the other night, we had $25,000 in the contingency fund.
Right,
When we took everything else out, that was eliminated, we added it all to that contingency line. So instead of 25, we have 31,202. Which is good, because as, at the last meeting, we passed a resolution to be able to adjust budget lines within our budget. So what we would do is take, if we went too lean on a particular line, we would take it from the contingency and at the end of the year and make the budget adjustments necessary.
it looks like, I don't have any more questions, I don't know if the rest of the board does. It looks like all the changes that we made from last meeting is here.
All right, at this time, does any members of the public wish to comment?
Well,
You-
May I just say that I have so many comments, I should go last, because there are a lot of people with short comments.
Yes, please.
These are honest.
Ken,
You'd shoot me.
These aren't comments, I just have questions, because it's the first time I looked at it. Last time I looked at the budget was
in the mid-90s with Nassau County Police, which is $326 million, and over 90% was to pay us and give us benefits. So the village is doing real well. The school district's pretty much the same too, right? So, but I had a question when it came to the buildings. Maybe you guys should just clarify it for me. Superintendent, I know you want to hire a superintendent.
Just give us the page number
Oh, I'm sorry,
and then the
each.
line.
It's 3620101 on page 5. This is one from the other night. It's all under building department. I just don't have a clue. I'm just trying to figure out who gets paid what. That was my only question. I know we're allowing 65,000 supposedly in case we do get a building superintendent.
And it does, what that does mean, Ken, is that in the past, and what we had adopted before we knew our building inspector was leaving, was the number exceeded 1,000.
I'm not questioning the
We're not-
amount, I'm just trying to figure out.
We're not saying we're gonna necessarily spend that much,
Okay.
but up to that much.
Okay, and the present part-timer, how does that work out for him for a salary? I know we have the part-time gentleman that's doing, I guess, Dr.
Well, he's
we have a
just on an
part-time?
hourly, yeah,
Okay.
he's a
But is he
part-time
like 20,
building
30,000?
superintendent.
Do you have any idea what that is?
He's talking about Mr. Armasato.
Yeah, Mr.
Okay,
Amasano.
I'm
It'll be less than what would have been for a full-time.
Okay.
It's less than that.
And the personal service code enforcement, the 3620-111, code enforcement officer, we're figuring 50,000 and 5,000 overtime. Is that to add somebody?
So that would be able to be adding
Okay.
one part-timer,
Okay,
and then,
so it's not somebody that's here now then? Okay,
it's-
okay.
well,
Okay.
it includes
Yeah.
his,
Plus one.
the 15.
Oh, okay. And the other question
We're
I
not
had for
giving him
you,
$20,000.
I didn't realize, but is Kareem at $30,000 a year?
A little more, just got a raise.
Okay,
33.
because I wasn't sure, but I had spoken to a couple people back in the other day. I know I'm a little critical of the code enforcement and inspections and blah, 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 but if we're paying them a little over $30,000, Governor Cuomo is trying to get people to get the same amount of money, right, with the minimum wage thing. I think at some point in time, we should take a look at this, because I know I've been jumping all over him over the last 8 to 10 months. It's not just him, but he's the only guy we really have that does that. But we should keep in mind, and I'm not doing this to vouch for him, but $30,000, I mean, we're counting on him to do the right thing with the code enforcement, and to me, that's like I've been reading all the Cuomo stuff, you guys see it, with the minimum wage.
Well,
Yeah,
Ken, when we
it's-
gave him the raise,
Yeah.
Kevin came up with a very good solution because there was really no rhyme or reason how
Okay.
people got raises.
Okay,
And it was the more classes he attends, the more certificates he gets, the more knowledge he gets, that's how we're going to build up his salary.
yeah, well, as
Because
far,
remember, he came from just the civil service list, never had,
yeah,
ground floor,
As
so was
far-
working his way up.
as far as I know, he completed the state course,
Right.
which you have like 6 months or up to 18 months, I mentioned to you guys,
Right.
which is fine. No, I'm looking at that, I thought he was getting 55 or 50,000.
No.
But, it's something we should keep in, I know we're already doing our thing for now, but it's something we should keep in mind. The last question I had is the 3620-401, contractual expenses consultant. Who do we hire as a consultant?
Ron,
Ron.
why don't you tell
Okay,
him, trustee
okay.
Rena?
He's
That's
is he,
right.
He's an independent contractor.
He's an independent
Oh,
contractor.
okay,
He
because I
is a
thought he was the same
consultant.
as Kareem.
No.
Okay. No, those are the main questions I had, but like I said, we should definitely keep in mind, we're asking them to do stuff, and, that's like the minimum wage. And I didn't
Yeah.
look to vouch for them, but 30,000,
No, I think we agree. I think we just need to find an objective way to do it, so that
Yeah.
it's not just throwing money at people without rhyme.
He can't start at 20,000 and then only say, a year later, let's give him 50.
Oh, no,
We're having him build his way up.
I was civil service my whole life, everybody knows, even teachers, you go up, and you hit a certain plateau, and it's a home run after that.
It was
But,
because he started as a trainee, but I
Okay.
think he does, he's had the experience now and I think. the
Because
board
like I said,
has-
I looked at the budget here, and half the budget is basically sewer, fire department, and garbage.
Yep.
So we don't have a lot to work with. The fact is, I counted Mr. Toner and everybody else's salaries, or the clerks and everybody. And if I added everybody together, it's still only like 28%. So from what we did with Nassau County, this is a home run. This, you know, we're not talking about giant salaries here. So, you know, this works. Okay, thank you.
To your
Thank
point,
you.
Ken, the three services you mentioned, that's 58% of our total budget.
Oh, okay. I just guessed when I was looking at it when sitting here. Okay, thank you. I gotta get Kevin's calculator then.
All right.
The battery's
Mr. Smithheimer, can you please take the podium?
Royce Smithheimer, 42A Edward Road, Washington.
I'll bring that up now.
On page 5, Superintendent of Buildings Personal Services, which is code 362-0101, is that anticipated to be a salaried position or a contractual position?
Salary, well, we're hoping salary,
Right.
is what my understanding.
What number we on?
This building superintendent.
Page 5, the Superintendent of Buildings.
The 101?
Yes, 101. Well, if it's,
Well, that's the, prior to what we're doing today, as of July 1st, we had Mike in the job. He was building super / chief code enforcement. So he has left, and we replaced him with a part-timer. And we still haven't filled really that position. But in Leslie's search for someone to fill that position, she felt to be competitive, we probably have to be at a minimum, Leslie, right, of 65,000 and possibly
60, 65, but
75 up to.
Once we hire someone full-time, we're not gonna need Mr. Amasano, who's our part-time,
no, I understand.
but it's a salary position.
Okay, so as a salaried position, my concern is that when you go to the employee benefits section, which is page 7, where it says state retirement, social security, Medicare, and all that. My concern is we may not have enough in that line to cover that position, because we need about 20% for the state retirement. So 20% of 65,000 is 13,000, which then if you add it to the 79,914, which is about 80,000, you need more like 93,000. So you're shy $3,000 on that line. So this all should be refined to make sure that it fits the
Well,
salary position.
again, we don't know, we might be able to find somebody for 55, for 60.
Right, that's where the other money would come from.
And, you know, we would have more money on that line. We're not saying we're gonna definitely pay that. We haven't been able to find anybody, even without advertising what the salary would be.
That I understand, and I think it might be on the low side of 65,000, so I just want to.
Right, but that's why, again, we have 30,000.
That's why I wanted to express my concern.
Okay.
The other thing I want to suggest is, since you have a personal service code enforcer at 2011, this is also on page 5. This is what the discussion we just had with Ken, where it's $50,000. I noticed for the personal service part-time code enforcer, you have a separate line, 113. My suggestion would be to split it off and put the funds down there for the part-time. So instead of having that at 50, you just have that at 35, whatever it is that you.
But so there was a reason why we didn't do that, why didn't we do that?
113.
Right now, you have nothing in there, and that's part-time. So I don't know why you would put two in the same line when you can separate it, and you have the lines to do that.
Well, I think it gives the board the flexibility then of doing just what Mr. Kraft just said, in adjusting the salary of a person who's been here for almost 3 years, full-time, and then not have it on the line for
You can account for
him.
that. So you account for that. So
Well,
you
that's
can
it.
take 35 or 40 and 10,000 for the other. Whatever the split is that you think is appropriate for that is all I'm suggesting.
We had that line, in the way beginning, just so you know, we had that line struck out, and it came back in again. From the first budget overview that we did, yeah, we took it out because it's the same line item as, hold on, I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth on a couple of pages. Number 5. And here's from that. Oh, I see what you did. Okay. In the original one, it was the same exact number as the part-time code enforcer and the overtime number. So you switched it and made a separate number. It was 112, and 112 was already overtime, so you made it 113.
Right, rather than removing.
Then rather than removing it, I see, okay. Because we did have it separated at one point, I think we just, the numbers got screwed up.
Well,
The code numbers, the
I
code
think it
numbers.
would be clear to the public that the village is absolutely intent on
so do we
getting
want
a
to do
part-time
35 and
code enforcer.
15? It's up to the board.
That's fine, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
That's a good suggestion.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anybody agree?
And then the last one is, at the work session, on page 6, it was, you moved $5,000 from the ARB BGA line, which is 100, 8025, 100. You had 5,000 in there, and then you brought it down to 0, because I believe Mr. Torn indicated that there were fees coming in on the revenue side to cover that.
Escrows, the applicants.
Okay, so the applicant asked them. So based on GASB and GAAP, General Accepted Accounting Principles, you can't just eliminate the $5,000. You have to show it on the revenue side, and you have to show it on the expense side. The bottom line is the same, it'll come back to 0. But for proper budgeting, using GASB and GAAP, it should be shown on both sides. Same thing with any kind of fees that are coming in that normally attorney would charge for BZA planning or whatever. And if there's other fees that are coming in from that, they should be shown both on the revenue side and on the expense side.
Look, to interrupt you a second. Bob, what do you think about that?
It's there, the line is for $15,000, we increased to 2115 on the revenue side,
Which one, I'm sorry?
2115.
That would be on what page?
One.
One.
Oh, I see. That's right.
I'm just trying to find the ARB code on the expense side.
That's planning board fees, is that what I'm looking at?
Uh-huh.
Is it 1420, 460?
That's 215 right now. So then you should show some expenses on the other side.
Uh-huh. And I think that the rest is illegal, under
Yeah.
14,460. It's also for 15,000.
I see.
On the expense side?
Yes.
Find it in there.
Right, so if it's in there, then fine, but as you guys know, it definitely is going to be accounted for on both sides of the
It's in
ledger.
There.
Okay, thank you so much.
Caroline? Nobody else has any other questions? Caroline?
Okay. Thank you. I'm Caroline DuBois, I live at 8 Humes Lane. I'm the acting secretary for the Manorhaven Action Committee. Some of these questions I'm asking on behalf of MAC. They sent them in to me. So the first are general questions for Mr. Avina. Do we have signed proof from Mr. Leventhal that he has no claims on the village and will not put any future claims for payment of his time and legal fees from the activity of last summer?
The answer to that is, it involves a couple of other lawsuits. Mr. Leventhal, as part of a settlement, has informed the mayor and her council, as well as the rest of the board, with the terms and conditions. That would be that no one would pay any legal fees. We, the trustees, which were sued by the mayor, have our own expenses over the attorney, we'll waive those. Mr. Leventhal, $15,000, he will waive. It's just putting everybody, the mayor and her attorney, to say, okay, we're not going to continue to try to claim reimbursement of the fees. That's where we stand. I'd be happy to give you a copy of the proposal.
It's a legal matter, so. yeah.
Well, look, there's a settlement on the table, and I'm not counsel on that. As I stated numerous times before the public, I'm not taking any fees on litigation, although I put a tremendous amount of time into the litigation. There is a proposal put on the table by Mr. Leventhal, which basically says that Giovanna has to, the mayor has to eat her own legal fees on this, which were extensive. Without going into litigation matters, this situation with the village attorney was thrust upon the mayor, and it's a matter of equity, whether she should have to, pay her own legal fees when, in the capacity of mayor, she was defending in her opinion, and I've gone through this with her, defending the New York State Villages law and the authority that's conferred on a board, what's conferred on a board and what's not conferred on a board. So that's an issue that has to be worked out amongst the attorneys. And I imagine at some point it'll be worked out. I imagine the lawsuit will work out in the next few months.
The point I'm getting at, to simplify it, is in this budget we're talking about now, next year, will there be some unexpected legal fees either for Mr. Leventhal or on Giovanna, or is that covered by insurance?
It's very, very speculative. I mean, historically, this village has had unexpected legal fees probably every year, going back for the last 15 years. So, look, it's speculative, this litigation pending. The mayor's not asking for a judgment against the village. She's not asking for, and I shouldn't say that, she's not asking for a monetary judgment. There is the issue of legal fees that has to be worked out, but, I'm sure the parties will get together and discuss it.
I think to discuss this fairly at this meeting is not doing anybody any justice. So I would like to just reserve that for private conversation or for the board. I'll tell you this, Carol, to answer you one part that I can answer, and that is Leventhal, $15,000, he will not submit. The $5,000 that myself, Priscilla, and Gately had to pay illegal fees because the mayor is the plaintiff in the suit. We're not gonna submit that. We are definitely entitled for reimbursement because we are being sued as trustees. The mayor is suing us. We're not suing anybody, okay? So, without getting in the whole, I think Mr. Toner summed it up. There's a settlement on the table. We're all trying to be fair and work through it. Right now, as I said to you, the thing I'm certain about is that me and the other two trustees who presented the resolution will not seek compensation as plaintiffs. We were, however, entitled to it. Very clear on that. Leventhal has said to me, and I trust him to be a man of his word, and that is, without snickering, that is that he will not submit a bill for the $15,000.
Okay, I understand that there are unexpected legal fees that may hit the village, and we don't know what they are, and so I'll leave that alone for now. I understand that you have withdrawn the line item, which I guess never entered the budget, for $50,000 for waterfront study.
That was never a line.
Well, it was, I understand, it was a proposal that you made at the end of the meeting on Monday night. And what it was going to be for.
Well, let me interrupt for a second. If Mr. Toner's outlined the steps we have to take to put a moratorium in place, and we have to begin a study, so that's gonna cost money. So maybe $50,000 was way over the pale. I spoke to someone, that's the number he gave us. So we're all gonna take a deep breath now. Mr. Toner is gonna put the steps we have to take. But part of the steps, Caroline, is to hire a firm to do the study, which will cost money.
And it's gonna have to be instituted right away. As soon as we pass this law, we need to get going on a study.
That was the reason of why I introduced the possibility of having to spend money out of the surplus, so that we put a stop to all the speculation within the village about building a type of steel, marinas being sold, etc. So it's trying to get to satisfying the residents that we're going to halt construction on the
Well, I
waterfront.
just want to make it clear that our study from 2014 only cost $3,000.
I understand that, but we don't know what the, okay, fine.
And
Let's put 3,000.
that involves all of Manorhaven and the waterfont.
So that's great news too.
Yeah, it is.
Can I further say that
You use that study, it's great.
recent conversations with the Department of State, two things. First of all, they were very disappointed that we did a LWRP, Local Waterfront Revitalization Plan, 2001. They worked hard on it, and it was yanked. At the last minute, it wasn't enacted. So whether they'll work with us, I'm sure they will, but they're a little bit like, do we really mean it? That's number one. Number two, my understanding and previous experience with DOS is that they put up the money, the cash money, something like 2/3 of the value, and the village puts up 1/3 in kind. Lawyers' service, meeting room, light bulbs, stuff like that. So it's a very minimal amount of money. Now, if you're talking about getting an outside lawyer, for example, a particular lawyer or particular study group to do it, then that's another story. Then you have to know who and when. But if it's not exactly on the table now, I do understand that 6 months is hardly enough time to start at the beginning. So we will probably have to have a second 6 months.
And Mr. Tone explained it, he said, as long as the study is going on, you
Right.
have a chance, you will have a definite chance to move this forward. But the major item here is to get the moratorium in, have the public hearing, and get the study going.
Right. And getting a study going and having a discussion about that is something we'll have at the public comment, and so I'll leave that alone.
The study could be a comprehensive plan or an LWRP, but I want to point out to you that when we were revisiting the issue a year or two ago, and the issue was part of the board, there was only 2 LWRPs on the planet that were in effect. And I believe there's over 50 waterfront communities in New York, and I believe that the number of LWRPs are in the teens. It's a very small number. So to say that the state, somehow is disappointed that we didn't accept it, it's not uncommon for a municipality not to accept an LWRP, because there's not very many of them in New York. It's something that may be catching on now with some towns, but villages, there's very, very few. Do the research on it.
Well, the one I'm most familiar is the one in Lloyd Neck, and the mistakes were made. I'm not saying, it was perfect. But let me move on to another topic. People want to know, for the CHIPS money, the highway money, is there any carryover
Yes.
from last year? What line item would that be on the budget?
We have $78,000.
78,000, and then we're entitled to
3501.
another 78, so we're allowed to combine them?
It will carry over.
It will carry over, and then do we get, for the next year, starting in June, we get another 78?
We don't know the numbers, so we can't put it in the budget. They will be giving us money.
Don't you presume it would be the same as what we got last year,
I
roughly?
have no idea.
Roughly?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I'd love to know.
My point being, if 70 and 70 is 140,000, let's say, that would certainly be enough to start getting a snowplow, a sweeper, start to rent one, buy one, get a loan for one. So the question is, if this budget has no money for capital improvements as is, does it have any money in it for equipment? Either rented or new, or I know you're gonna repair some old stuff. So the CHIPS money, what's that gonna look like?
Well, one of the things we have to find out are what it's allowed for. It hadn't listed the word hot box or pavement, there were other names for it. We had to get a new approval because it wasn't out there on the list. I'm not sure if it would cover street sweepers, but when we looked to purchase one last time, it was $210,000 new. So we may have to, if we want to get big pieces of equipment, we may have to bond it, we may have to borrow, and try to figure out a plan where we can borrow, get that equipment, sell it before it's not worth anything, and then keep purchasing new, as people do with leasing cars.
Okay.
But we don't have
The hot box costs roughly 20,000?
19, exactly.
19. And that is, do we have it already? Are we getting it in next year's budget?
We just got the hot box, and we will pay for it, and then we'll submit it. The submissions are every few months, so we're submitted in April.
Did it arrive?
It did arrive, it just arrived.
So that's coming out of the,
CHIPS money.
the current budget that will end in June.
Correct. But we also have to keep money in there for street signs, for painting lines, for asphalt, for the things that we're allowed to use CHIPS money for.
So at
We
the
can't
end,
spend it all.
at the end of June, how much surplus CHIPS money do you anticipate we'll have so that we can add it to whatever new CHIPS money we might get?
What, 78 minus 19, right? 59? Approximately 59, thank you, sir.
59 left over plus whatever we get new.
Plus what we get, yeah.
Assuming we get 70, I don't know, my math is 130,000, that we can put into some kind of highway.
Sure,
work.
if there's an idea of something that,
You can't make that judgment,
we
because
can't
your budget,
guess.
you can't do that.
right, we don't know how
You can't
much.
assume
is-
that.
I know what she's
understand
saying,
budgets.
though. I know
Yeah, but
what
that's
you're
unfair
getting
to
at.
the
Excuse me,
board.
everyone, it's a public hearing, we have a reporter.
Let-
You gotta
okay.
have mercy on her, which means she can only take one person at a time.
Yeah,
Let me try to answer what I think your question is.
And
During-
that was Ronald DeMayo, right? who
Yes,
spoke?
yeah,
What's your
I'll be
address,
next,
Mr. DeMayo?
yeah. Excuse me?
Please state your address for the record.
Ronald Mayo, 67B, Sing Sing Drive East.
Okay, we'll fill in the record now, thank you.
Okay. For example, this year, the highway department had brought up the idea of making better patches, fixing potholes. Cold patch doesn't last. It grinds up, it makes potholes very quickly. So we went to the board, we asked, we called CHIPS, will you cover it? They sent us back in writing that it would be covered. The board made the decision, and I'm glad they did that, so that we can maintain our roads until we have the capital budget to be able to repave an entire road. This will make better patches, it keeps it at a constant temperature. If the board and the public say, gee, let's look into, which we tried doing last year, perhaps we could buy a new sweeper or a plow or whatever that might be. Then we go back to the drawing board, we try to figure out how can we pay for this? Do we borrow? Do we, what? Do we ask CHIPS if they would pay for part, we would pay for part? There may be some idea that we could get a grant for. So it's always good to be thinking about it, to be proactive, to look to what we could purchase.
let me move on. Thank you for that, Leslie. Next question is, do you have any plan to raise fines? We haven't looked at the fines for a long time.
We do have a plan.
You do, what's the
We're gonna
plan?
revisit the code and look at some, because the fine structures are 10, 15 years old. And I think the board, in one of the work sessions, the board unanimously agreed that we need to revisit the fines in the form of passing new legislation to amend the existing law. And I think that'll be done.
When do you think it'll be done? This
When we
administration?
finish the budget,
Yeah.
When we finish the budget? Okay,
one problem at a time.
okay,
And
good,
I agree, it's something that's.
okay. So the next question is, if we expect to have new code enforcers or 1.5 code enforcers and a full-time building inspector, wouldn't we increase the revenue that we would get from code enforcement violations and problems?
You mean like
That's
on the
what we
revenue
hope.
In
side?
other words, on the revenue side, excuse me, I'm jumping around here, but it stands to reason that you have more policemen, you're gonna get more tickets.
And that would probably be a bonus afterwards, and probably add to our surplus, because right now we can't judge that, because we don't know what we're changing the fines to, and we don't even know, like, which fines we're changing, and how much we're changing, it could be $5, it could be 10, it could be 100. So it's all speculation, so that would just add to our surplus side.
But it's something in the next April, May, that's on the table for you guys to look
Carol, the
at.
way we approached the budget was trying to be conservative in our estimates, particularly on the revenue side. So that's one that we.
Okay, oh, but no, that's
we're
good,
aware
I
of, but we
appreciate
didn't
that.
act on it.
So another question is about unpaid taxes. Leslie,
Yes.
you referred up here in line 100,
I'm sorry.
it looks like there's a shortfall of the very top, page 1,
Okay.
property taxes and tax items.
Right.
I'm just trying to understand that, is that 13,000 that you have in there, those are liens, those are uncollected tax funds for like this past year?
We break it down as to when people pay their taxes on time and what the penalties are accumulated if they don't pay by July 1st.
And is that roughly the amount of people that we sort of have to go after?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
And we make phone calls, we send letters.
And then they
and
have
we
to
do what
pay
we
it.
can. We're not allowed to we're not allowed to put liens on properties.
We're not.
We would have had to apply to the state in 1970?
Selling liens,
Selling liens, I'm
You can
sorry.
put liens, you can put tax liens.
Yeah, but in other words, it's a little bit, but do they incur a penalty if they don't
It's
pay on
interest.
They
time?
do.
You pay interest.
They do.
And it gets filed as a.
There are
As a
penalties.
judgment with the.
Judgment, so it goes if they sell the property?
Right, it goes to the Nassau County Clerk's Office.
Right,
And we
okay.
do them routinely.
Okay. So the last thing that, in the general questions are, I don't see any money for public relations, meaning newsletters or upgrading the website with more sunshine, announcements, things like that. Is that put in this budget in some place?
Miscellaneous.
Because you haven't put out a newsletter in months and months, right?
What line item would that be under, Leslie?
It would be on page 4, under special items. And we did
Under 1910?
1910.
Well, you have dues, you have festival, you have dock repair, you have some liability. I don't see newsletter in here or
Well, it's not
website.
under newsletters, I don't think. Is there a specific line though? Legal notices.
It's not legal notices.
We generally do it under supplies, because it's paper and it's mailing. and
Like
so we have
16,
some
20,
Under
14.
postage, so we do it under supplies for the paper and then
Okay,
printing and
so you have a
postage.
$20,000 line
16,
item.
24, 13 postage. It comes out of
Okay.
several different.
So you have $9,000 in postage, and that would be for the actual sending of the newsletter around. Okay. So now, going down now on a line by line, and let me just say, the first that we saw this was at the work session, and we had some comments. I know it's gonna take long in your board, but it's important to go through this. In the first work session, we were handed a document none of us had seen. I'm sorry, none of us had seen it, and even the board had different versions of the same document. So, and then the other night, we were not allowed to speak about it. So some of these questions in the work session. So let me just jump down here with questions on first page, 2100, under 2110, zoning fees combined with 2115, planning board. Are those fees, those are combined as income from those like new building applications, is that what that is?
There's application fees.
Applications fee,
Every applicant pays a fee.
right. To back up about that question, are you anticipating with a, not the building moratorium on the whole village, but are you anticipating a steady rate of building, an increase in building, less
I think you're
building?
gonna see the same in terms of fees, because, you know, the building, for an example of PCA, it's sometimes it's just residents asking, you know, to put up a garage or to extend the garage. So I imagine the typical applications, we're gonna continue to see those
That's
averages.
steady,
So I think we worked out with the accountants, was
okay.
that would remain more or less the same.
Okay, jumping down to that same first page, 2410, under the cell tower. I don't know so much about this. Barbara, are you here? She left. I know there was a question whether there was a new antenna or two new antennas that may or may not have been put, and I understand that if you're asking for an increase in fees on a contract which may not be valid, it's a slippery slope.
It's a valid contract. We have to examine whether well, let me state this.
Yeah,
I'm not commenting necessarily on the validity of the contract.
right.
However, we have issued a CO pursuant to a court order, and the tower is operating pursuant to a lease that was approved by a previous board.
Okay,
So given that, in saying that, there is a contract. And I carefully word it this way because the validity contract is currently being contested in the Nassau County Supreme Court. However, I need to examine the existing lease to see whether it covers these two additional radio frequencies that we discovered, to see whether A, it was appropriate under the existing lease for them to install that without notifying the village, and B, to see if we're receiving the appropriate amount of fees from those antennas.
okay. That's good, and I appreciate you're on top of it, you're asking the questions, and all I'm trying to say is I want to squeeze a few more pennies out of that contract, if we can. Okay,
Okay.
Jumping
I know Mr.
down-
Mayor has a question, Caroline. Do you have- How many more questions do you have?
oh, about 40? But by law, by notice, we have all night tonight and all night tomorrow night to go through it. I'm certainly happy to yield if there's one person who has one question.
Do you have a question?
Well, I wasn't gonna ask any, but I can ask a few if I can be given 5 minutes tonight instead of tomorrow.
Why don't you take your 5 minutes, if that's okay? Because I have questions on every page, and I'm only halfway down page 1.
Okay, well, let me allow Ron, because maybe he has to be somewhere.
Yeah, I understand.
Thanks,
Thank you, I
Caroline, for
appreciate
being understanding. I'll allow you back right after. I know you have all right.
So, I'm sorry.
Just state your name and return to the.
It's Ronald DeMeo, 67B, Cincinnati Drive East, Washington, New York. I really didn't have too many questions, but I just wanted to commend the board, in particular trustee Avina, Mayor Junta. I know you've worked very hard. Also, I'd like to thank the village clerk. I know it's tough, no matter what's been going on between everybody. And I address everybody here. I think you've done a great job. As far as I know, you're supposed to be a zero budget, right? Not looking to have 100,000, 200,000 left over for next year. All I'm saying is I believe, and I would trust, being in village hall almost every day. Sometimes I get thrown out, but anyway.
That's not a story.
And I meant that in a good way. Is that I believe that you have whoever you have giving you a budget, and we're preparing as taxpayers that you're looking to have a zero budget at the end of the year. Of course, there may be some, monies that are left over, but we can't count on money, 70,000, 100,000 left over from this budget, because that would be unfair to us, and I think you've done a great job with that. The only thing I'd like to say is, like, looking at it, you've kept it very close. I understand where you're going. Just a couple suggestions. We know salaries. I disagree with Mr. Smithheimer. Salary, 65,000, 100,000. The one thing I also disagree with is when we talk about employees, it should be the title. It shouldn't be Joe, Harry, Sam. I think it's unprofessional. I've dealt with budgets for 20 years, and I know we're a very small community here, but I think it's unfair to the employee to mention it by name rather than their job title, because if it's a different job title, civil service steps in, you can change the job title. If somebody's making 20,000, 40,000, 60,000, it's the job title, not a person. That's just my own suggestion, and I think we're professional enough to do that. As far as monies that would be above, say 60,000, whatever number you put in that one particular line that came up with Mrs. Smithheimer, I would assume on page 7, you'd have that included in the benefits. That's where the money should be, not in their salary. So if the guy makes 60,000 in civil service, an extra 5 or 10 or 15, 20, that should be included in that number there. And sometimes, maybe as lay people, we don't see that. We all know that's part of their benefits, but it's not their salary. Another suggestion, usually budgets are predominantly about salary. Okay, I don't believe that you guys are looking to increase summonses to bring in extra revenue, because there's also compliance, so you can't really count on revenues being drawn in because you increase your fines. And I'm not saying you shouldn't increase your fines, but there's also a compliance part. You're basing your estimates on this budget based on, I brought 100,000, and you're doing the best for us by giving us that true number, not making believe that it's some other number that we can't control. One thing that I saw is during the snow emergency, the village as a whole took some criticism, just as a point. I know this is not about the budget, but, you know, it is a snow emergency. I've approached other board members, and they've always been very receptive, no matter whether it's outside or in their official capacity. You have a snow emergency route. I think many of your problems were based on the fact that people didn't comply, all of us as residents. I think you guys did a great job in general, just like when you have snow emergency routes. You don't have it here in the budget, but maybe you want to look into having an official tow company. You tow company, you know, will tow those cars on the snow emergency routes, makes it better for all of us. You do a great job notifying everybody when there is an emergency. You obviously spend money doing that, and you take time and effort to do that. And just like I said, it's easy to throw out rocks to everybody when it's all over. But when cars are parked there for a week, in fact, in front of the village hall, I'm not trying to knock anybody, I'm just saying, it's very difficult to do the right thing as a village when you have big snow mounds in front of you because people are inconsiderate, that's all. And as a whole, like I said, I think you guys have done a great job, and I'm just very happy that whatever animosity or whatever's going on between anybody, I'm very impressed by the fact that everybody does the right thing here right now. Being a resident, I've owned multiple houses, been back and forth across the street, so I look at this as one community. I think you're doing a nice job, and like I said, a couple little things, it should be looking to make extra money, not so much just fines, but I think all of us collectively today have to figure out how we can supplement our budget, and I just think that would help all of us. I just want to thank you all.
Thank you.
Just so Ron knows, I think that was
Can you
numbers,
state your name?
Ken Kraft, 30 Conway again. I did submit a proposal for the snow emergencies, which included our own tow car laws and the parking, which I copied from the town of Pennsylvania. I did submit that.
Okay.
And I'd be able to tell them, you know,
Any other
snow-
members of the public? Michelle, and then I guess.
Michelle Roper, 13 Linwood Road South. I may have,
Would you mind just voting?
Michelle Roper, 13 Linwood Road South. I may have misunderstood Mr. DeMayo, but I believe the New York State Comptroller's Office recommends that we have 5% surplus, or something around that amount. So I don't know about the 0, I may have misunderstood what you were talking about.
Ask the accountants, I don't know.
New York State doesn't have a universally
Recommendation.
accepted fund balance rate.
No.
But
It's supposed to be a zero balance.
what the gentleman's saying is that our revenues are equal to our expenses. We don't have more expenses than our revenues, and we don't have more revenues than our expenditures. That's a zero-based budget that he's speaking of.
I think to explain it just a little bit further is that while we put a number in a budget line, we don't strive at the end of the year to spend every penny, okay? So whatever's left over, what we don't spend, we try to save for big projects.
One other thing about the increase in parking fines, is there some type of a surcharge, and is that by the state? Because I know that since I've moved here, I think the tickets went up by like $25.
Yeah, this is the surcharge, we don't get to keep the surcharge, it goes to the state. We're talking about raising the fines.
I understand that, but it's
And there's no surcharge on parking fines, it's
kind of a
moving
burden, so I
violations.
don't think it should be raised too much, because with the $25 on the surcharge on top of it, it's,
There's no surcharge on parking tickets.
No?
Only on PTLs. And
maybe I
don't-
maybe it's somewhere else than I
That
got.
may be
Our-
county.
Our parking tickets are $40.
Oh, and there's no surcharge.
And you have a big parking problem, yes.
Ron, did you have another?
In that-
Putting fines is, when you put fines on things,
Okay.
you're trying to curb that behavior, and that's all they're trying to do is
No,
putting people
I
out legally, you
understand.
know?
I thought that there was a new fine. Okay, thank you.
Ron, did you want to respond to?
No, I was just, yeah, I will. Also, I would assume the accountants will refer to the fact that just because you budgeted a certain amount of money in one particular area, doesn't mean you can't reallocate it at a later time during that year. When I'm referring to zero, it's the fact that they shouldn't be overtaxing us as residents. The intent should be 0. It doesn't mean that there isn't money, capital projects or whatever, that would be earmarked in a particular line that's above and beyond, that's all.
Any other members of the public wish to comment before Caroline takes the podium? Okay, this will be the last one.
Thank you. Okay, I want to refer you to mooring fees, front page item 2545. I'm not sure why this year we're thinking of $1,000 when we've already had nearly $15,000 received.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
Mooring fees are done as a 3-year mooring plan.
Okay,
So they pay in this year, that's why there's a big number.
okay.
There are generally 1 or 2 or 10 people who hadn't been in there in the beginning that applied for a mooring. And so we put in something. We could have put in $500. We put in $1,000 because we looked at the past. And generally, they're a handful.
Okay. It had been suggested that was maybe because they were kicking people out of Haven Marina, but that is nothing
No,
to
no,
do
no,
with that.
no,
Okay.
no, no.
Just asking. Okay, the, going down to the rental registration fee, $25.96. I understand it's an off year,
Right,
and you do that every other year,
right.
and you have $60,000 income. Am I to assume that that is new apartments that are coming for the first time?
No, there's vacancies being filled.
Vacancies being filled?
Yeah, so it's a vacancy, there's and new apartments.
Okay, and that represents a huge number of inspections, right? That's a
Well,
lot.
look, I talked to Ron about the inspections, and the truth of the matter is, that under the New York State law, the tenants do not have to let you in. I'll just use last month as an example. We did five inspections. There were 91 or 92 rental registration fees that were collected. It's very difficult when the tenants don't want to let you in. So, it could be a tenant that's renewing a lease, and if they say they're not going to let Ron in, then he can't get in. So he puts the landlord on notice, and I talked to him about it, I asked him about it. He's doing everything he can under the law, but the bottom line is that the tenants are savvy to the fact that they don't have to let you in.
I believe there was also a lawsuit, you have to go find a resident
And
in regards to
So,
inspection.
so essentially, we're inspecting the empty apartments.
for the most part, we are definitely inspecting them, but we would also like to have a higher number of occupied apartments. It's just, you get into the constitutional privacy requirements of the Fourth Amendment. You can't just bust the door down. You need consent. I mean, look, if there's something illegal going on there, you can obtain a warrant from the judge after doing surveillance. We don't have the resources to do that in every case, or even 1% of the cases.
Right, okay. Next page, item 2610, justice fees and fines at the top of the page.
Yes.
There's sort of an imbalance. If you go over to 2012, it was 215,000. And that's out of, do you happen to know why that was such a big number that year? That's 4 years ago. There was right now, we're proposing 165,000. 4 years ago, we got in 215,000. That's like 40,000 more.
Think of the crystal ball that you need. You need people to violate the law. Then you need them to come to court, and you need some type of a disposition to be worked out. And then you need the variable of the judge on whatever fine he imposes. So you come up with a realistic number that's based on averages and not necessarily a very good year, quote unquote, in fine collections, because it also means a very bad year for people following the rules and regulations of Manorhaven.
Okay.
I think in 2012,
Is that
there
when
was
Nancy
some
put in?
amnesty program
Yes,
for the
yeah,
feds.
that's
Where
right.
people had the ability to come in, settle their fines without a large penalty.
Right.
So they all came in and settled at the rate that it would have been rather than the penalty. So that was the one time.
So they settled a lot of the tickets.
Oh, that's good, that's good. Do we have another amnesty plan?
I can say this, though, we have a settlement on one of the large cases we were handling. We have an additional $75,000 coming in this year, technically, on one of the matters in the courts. So, it's year to year.
Okay, no, that's just a question.
We hope that more comes in, and then you'll have a little bit more in the budget.
Okay. Jumping down to the middle of the page, under state age, you're combining the Morgan Stock and the dog park. I would love to see separate grant line items.
It was separated.
It was separated.
And you jammed it together then?
No.
No, you must,
Well, it's 3,500 is the line item.
Yep.
Where did the dog park go?
It's part of, it's part of that grant line.
No, it says grants Morgan Stock, and then there was supposed to be an additional line item for,
Oh, wait, it's $1,000. Where is it?
oh, wait, you know what, I think,
Ron?
Excuse me, if we're gonna talk about something about the budget, can we refer to a page and a line so that we all
Sorry,
could, like...
page 2.
It's on page 2.
I'm using the old and prior, so it might not
Page 2,
be,
line
Yeah,
35.
maybe you need a, yeah, it's been,
it's just that this
why don't
was
you get a new,
redlined.
Maybe we should get a-
Okay.
We don't have,
Yeah.
Was that the grant that was applied for?
yeah, we
Not
don't,
received?
no, we don't have it on the expense side.
It was a grant that was applied for. not
Are you
received.
talking about dog, or are you talking about Morgan's? We had to take out the money for the grant because we haven't gotten it yet, so we took it out on both the expense and the income.
But you do have the dog park on the revenue, remember it was both, the revenue side and the expense side had Morgan's Dock and the dog park together, and we separated. So I see on the, on page 6, you did do the separation. You have Morgan's Dock project and dog park project.
All right, 7510,
Right. I think we
100.
just forgot to do it on this side.
We didn't get the grant. Can't record the revenue.
Can't record the revenue because we didn't get the grant.
Right. But you're saying as a separate line item, just having the dog park line item in there.
But it'll be zero.
Yeah,
It is
zero.
I understand, that's okay, but there may be generous donors who want to give a grant.
Right,
For
so she's saying have a
the
line item
preserve-
in there.
Morgan's Dock and the dog park, and they're sort of 3 separate
All right,
entities.
so we can add that.
So it makes sense to
And then we'll have
line
everything
item.
in
Because
there.
it's on the other side, so it should be on this side, you're right.
Okay.
what other questions?
Okay, I have a question about, on the bottom of that, page 2, the line item 4,000, federal aid proceeds from obligations / tax certiorari, I can't say that right, prior years. I'm just curious what exactly, I know it has to do with assessments, but I don't really know what that means. It's an income? It's a bond? What is it?
Maybe she's asking.
I'm sorry.
In this year, we're getting 27,000. What is it?
Proceeds from obligations, tax, certiorari, prior years.
That's from the repayment of the
Like,
band.
I'm sorry, we're talking about
The bottom of page 2,
It's a,
the
from
very
what?
last
That's
line
the
on page 2.
repayment of the band this year.
Bond anticipation note, anticipatory note, we paid off money we had borrowed. That's
Okay,
why it
so-
shows up.
Okay, so that's just paid off and, okay,
We
got
paid
it.
it off, we got no everything.
Okay, I have nothing on page 3. I have a couple of things on, I think these were already gone over, on 4120, 460, the planning board legal fees. I think it was explained why they were lower this year. They were $15,000 proposed and projected of this year. These are outgoing money, of course, 35,000. Was there, I guess I wasn't quite sure why there was the discrepancy there.
I don't think we used it all
We
last year. We actually transferred $10,000 out by resolution for conflicts attorney. We never
Okay,
used that either. But the thing is, a lot of these fees are reimbursed, so I think we looked at it a little bit differently with the accountants.
okay.
And the number 35 was too high. There was also, the planning board attorney, when it was Jim Bradley, he was taking he was a 1099 with the village. He was taking a salary, a monthly salary. And I think our arrangement with Peter D's office is a little bit different. I think it's based on reimbursement from the applicants. So there's significant savings there, and I think it's reflected adequately in the budget.
Good. Okay, jumping down to line 1620, shared services. There's building equipment.
You're on page 4 then.
Fill us in on what page you're on or what
Page
line?
I'm sorry, page 4.
And that was Roy Smithheimer. What's your address, Roy?
42.
You gotta shout out, you gotta say your name and address. It's a hearing.
And she did say she was on page 4 when she turned to page 4, in all fairness.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just question about building equipment. This is lines 1620, 200. We're proposing 4,000 already, projected for this current year is 20,000. What is that?
Shelving.
Oh, that's the shelving in the storage room here?
Grant for that, we got a grant for that.
We got a grant for that.
Didn't we? No, we didn't? Okay.
No, the shelving we didn't, the rest of it we did.
That's right,
So yeah, it was a one-time.
It was a
So
one-time
that,
thing.
okay, just wondering, okay, moving down. Okay, towards the bottom of page 4, the judgment and claims, 1930400, judgment and claims other, and it's a $50,000. What exactly is that?
I'm sorry, what line are we referring to?
193400.
193400, judgment and claims other, $50,000.
Yeah, there's a pending case.
That's a legal fee,
It's
a
a legal
legal
settlement.
charge, settlement
It's
that you were
actually,
talking about.
20% of the actual settlement, the rest is covered by insurance.
Okay, was that the DeJohn case you were talking
Yes.
about? Okay. Okay, and then right below that,
That wasn't the Jana case I was talking about, that was another, that was the suit where the Jana sued the village. The one I was talking about was some tickets we were prosecuting on one of his companies.
oh, okay. Right below that, 199400 contingency accounts is 25,000.
Now it's 3102. 31202.
I'm sorry, how much is it now?
31202.
Okay, and that contingency is, for example, if there's a bad blizzard, is that what that would be for?
Anything that we need.
Anything we need, because, okay, the word contingency is a good word. Okay, change the page, we're on now page 5. A question about the fire budget, which is line 3410. It's $100,000 roughly more this year than last year. And I know there's some share that we have to pay sort of as part of a contract.
Right?
Is that so it's $453,000 compared to the $345,000 that we paid this year? Is there some other reason why it's higher?
Costs,
That's not the answer.
Yeah, she's got it, you have it
Listen,
in
you
your
gotta-
packet, ours has been revised, it's offered here, Caroline.
Okay.
There's less than a 2% increase year over year with fire department.
Okay,
emergency services.
what I'm just trying to, what I'm really getting at is, are we billed, I know we're billed to provide fire services for each house, and that's a good thing. Is it based on household or on population?
It's based on, there's a formula, how it's done. And I almost think it's based on the value of the houses, because I know Sands Point,
No, I
while they
think
have
it's
less
also
structures, they
density.
pay higher taxes.
That makes sense.
I'm not sure, but by
It's
contract,
by
every year, we do a public hearing on the
density.
contract.
Yeah, right, okay. Now I'm really confused.
You're on 5, page 5.
Okay, I don't want to cover what, I already did chips, I did personnel. Okay, we can go to page 6, we're almost there. What I have for the light bulbs, this is street lighting.
I'm sorry, did you turn to page 6?
Yes.
Yeah, 5182,421. The Anchor Street lighting maintenance, I know, Leslie, you had said if they, when they're up in the bucket truck, if they sort of proactively change their light bulbs, so that amount of $10,000 is less than the current of $13,000?
right?
Yeah, okay. Going down to the line 7140, 400, recreation trees contractual. There's $3,000 in the budget. Are we gonna hire, I know they tabled hiring an arborist. My question is the arborist going to just evaluate trees and somebody else cut them down? Because it doesn't seem like, in my experience, you can charge $1,000 to cut one tree down. So the analysis, I know we figured out is 3 days' work for that arborist that you proposed.
Wait. Let me go back, because I think that analysis, we were not, the purpose of having an arborist as the village arborist was not to have anybody come for 3 days. It was to be able to have somebody on call. If we get a call, there's a dangerous tree, we pay by the hour.
Right,
So it's $125 or $150 an hour. I
Right.
don't have that.
right.
So it was not to hire someone to come in for 3 days.
Well, let me tell you that what's behind my question.
Okay.
If the fellow who's doing the analysis walks in the dog park and he sees that there's 100 trees and 4 of them need to be cut down, it might take him several hours out of this $3,000. How do we pay for the trees that need to be cut down?
Well, quite frankly, I don't know if we had thought about the trees in the dog park. It was more public trees, trees in the Devil Strip,
Right,
trees,
that affected-
somebody's backyard that could be dangerous, could hurt somebody. If we're gonna do a whole tree run, or if we had him come to evaluate trees, as they're doing in Sands Point, they have a bigger budget. They're having him evaluate all the trees on their golf course.
Right.
And they would have to, now, if he told us we have 100 trees in our dog park that are dangerous, we would have to figure out how much it's gonna cost, and we'd probably have to borrow money for that huge project.
Right, and I can't remember at that hearing, somebody said it very smartly, you don't have the guy say this tree needs to be cut down and be the same guy who cuts it down.
Right.
So just, I didn't know if there would be 2 line items for analysis and operations.
No, those are, this is not related at all to individuals coming to the village and saying, I wanna cut down a tree in my house.
No, not a
See, that's not
homeowner.
the purpose
No.
for this at all.
Well, what is
No,
the
but-
$3,000 for?
If we get a call that there's a dangerous tree, or we wanna have an arborist come in, we want somebody, a village tree.
village tree.
Village trees would be in the dog park or in the preserve, it could be.
Yeah,
But if we would, who do we call? And if somebody calls at the last minute and says there's a dangerous tree, I don't wanna have to start asking permission, or who do I call, who do I?
I completely agree. So I understand now that it's 2 parts. It's analyze the tree, cut the tree. 2 different people, 2 different decisions, whatever. And I understand, and the dog park is probably less priority than an individual tree that's about to crash.
And if somebody called us and said, do you have an arborist, a village arborist, then we would say yes, right now we don't.
Okay, we're getting there. So now just to clarify, the Morgenstock project, I'm talking 75, 10, 100. I know we're going to be getting, we hope we're going to be getting a grant. The amount projected that we spent on it this past year is projected to be $476,000. And I understand we're trying to do a zero, we haven't gotten the money yet situation. How much are we asking for?
250,000.
250, does that mean it'll be all done?
That's phase 2, which
That's
is
two.
for the docks and the floats. And then there is a phase 3, which is things that are on
Upland.
the land, the
Okay.
upland.
Does it have any, maybe I shouldn't even speak about the restaurant that might be possible for us to look at? Is that anywhere in this budget?
Yeah, I mean, the condemnation of the Bowman's.
Yeah. because it doesn't
Moment's
exist
point,
It's in
okay.
its infancy right now.
I understand.
Nothing's happening with that property because they're not gonna get a building permit.
Okay.
And it's
I
also
get it.
gonna fall under the moratorium.
Yeah, okay. The Vision Long Island people, this is 75-10300. They've been paid $15,000, but they owe us one more public hearing? And do we have any plan to continue them at all?
That's why we put $5,000 in the event we decide to go forward and have them help us perhaps look for a grant for downtown.
Is it in the
revitalization.
new budget?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. Thank you.
75-10300,
75-103, okay.
page 6.
I'll look at that later. Thank you very much for putting that in. And the last page, page 7. Okay, this is all sanitary sewer and garbage. I'm not going to worry about that. I think I'm done. I think that everything here, I understand it better, and I thank you for putting up with this line-by-line questioning. And good luck. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the budget.
seconded.
Wait, don't we have to close the public
You gotta
hearing?
close the public hearing first.
Make a motion.
Before you
Why don't you make the motion to
Before
close?
you do that, just for the record, if there's no one else from the public that would like to speak regarding for or against the motion, just let the record reflect that, Madam Mayor, that there's no hands raised and that there's no further questions.
Okay, Rena second the motion to close the public hearing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No.
Mr. Avina?
May I have
That being said, I think we're done with the report.
Well, we have.
No, 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 no,
We're
but-
vote now.
Now the vote. Can I have a motion to,
Did the board want to discuss it at all?
Mr. Avina has a motion on the floor to approve.
Okay.
Well,
Well, including the,
Including the, yes, the changes that we made,
Right,
right.
which we're not
that we
financially
made
material.
over the last period of time, and as of tonight, I think the budget is acceptable, and I make a motion to accept.
I accept
All right, Madam Clerk.
it.
please call
With the
revision.
revisions that we
Yeah,
discussed,
I understand. That's it,
which were not financially.
and I just wanted to add that trustee Van Rosslav had also asked that we give her comment, not to put words in her mouth, or we can't have a proxy vote, but she was in favor of passing this budget. And I'm sure that the minor revisions we made tonight, which we all agree,
Very
would
Yes.
be acceptable
Very
too.
minor.
Trustee Avina,
Aye.
trustee DeLucia,
aye.
trustee Gately,
Aye.
Mayor Jota.
Aye. Now, just so everyone
Budget
knows
is
that
passed.
the meeting that is scheduled now for tomorrow has been canceled, since we voted on tonight, so I just don't want to hold
Thank you for saying that. I will put that on the
Leslie, just make
outside.
sure we post that.
I'll put that on the outside.
Thank you.
Thank you all for
very
coming.
much.